Imagine your best friend has been in a car accident. He's bleeding pretty badly, and you need to figure out how to help him live. At this point, the most important thing for you to do is to prioritize the different organ systems before giving assistance, as well as asking yourself some routine questions before addressing his injury. Is the problem respiratory, circulatory? Is it a hemorrhage that requires a tourniquet, or is it just a cut that requires some pressure and bandages? Identifying and diagnosing these situations correctly can sometimes determine whether that person lives or dies. If you take a course with the Red Cross, for example, they'll teach you that and what to do in this type of situation. But what do you do if it's your business, the one that's bleeding out? In other words, if your business was on the brink of dying, figuratively speaking, what would be the most appropriate first aid do's and don'ts? Hello everyone, my name is Antonio. I'm a finance manager at Google, and in this channel we talk about finance and technology to help you raise your business acumen. The most vital process in the human body is oxygen delivery. In a very simplistic way, it works like this. The brain sends a signal through the nervous system to the muscles and diaphragm, asking them to contract. This creates more space for the lungs to expand within the rib cage, and when they expand, pressure goes down and air starts to come in. When oxygen is inside the lungs, red vessels take the oxygen and carry it through your whole body, assisted by the heart, which acts like a pump. If any of these steps fails and the body is not getting oxygen, it will go into respiratory or cardiac arrest. If I try to apply the oxygen delivery as an analogy in business, I would argue that cash flow is like oxygen. The CEO, CFO, and board of directors would be the brain and the nervous system. The muscles, diaphragm, lungs would be the sourcing, manufacturing, and operations teams. And the red blood vessels and the heart would be the logistics and customer service team. Let me explain. Think about it like this. Management would send instructions to the various departments of the company explaining how cash flow should be spent in a given year. The sourcing department would then use this cash to buy raw materials. The manufacturing department would transform these materials into finished goods, and the operations teams would ensure they are free of defects and ready to be delivered to your customers. Finally, the logistics department would ensure the goods get delivered on time, and customer service would follow through on any complaint. This is the typical business cycle, and every single step requires cash in some form. If anything goes wrong in this process, the business will struggle in some form or fashion. Just as there are many types of injuries, there are a myriad of business problems. But the most critical one, the one that can kill the livelihood of a wild-eyed entrepreneur or a Fortune 500 company, is a very basic one: running out of cash. In other words, running out of oxygen. What do you do when your business is running out of oxygen? These are the steps that I would take. First, diagnose the problem. The best way to do this is to look at the direct cash flow statement. The indirect cash flow statement works as well, but using the direct form will give you more visibility into where exactly the money is going. The direct cash flow statement will break down the inflows and outflows by type, such as cash received from customers, cash paid to employees, cash paid to suppliers, and others. This will give you a good idea of where to focus your efforts into resuscitating the business. Now look out for patterns and one-offs. Is the problem in sourcing because the department is purchasing too much inventory up front? Is it in manufacturing because the blue collars and supervisors are working extra hours and wasting material? Is it in logistics because the packaging and delivery routes are not designed effectively? Once the problem has been identified, it will be much easier to attack. Number two, you treat the symptoms. Now, it's time to apply the bandages and medicine. Three of the most common problems that cause negative cash flow are late payments from customers, too much inventory, and excessive cost structure. So let's tackle these. Late payments from customers. The recommendation here is to renegotiate terms with your biggest accounts. Think about the 80-20 rule after all of this is first aid. The idea is to reduce the days to pay through incentives, such as discounts or a free trial on one of your products. If there's not enough traction, you could explore alternative financing solutions, such as invoice factoring. This is basically selling your invoice at a discount to a third party like a bank, who then collects it from the customer when the invoice is due. The point here is to get cash in the bank as fast as possible. Too much inventory, the best course of action here is to identify the slow-moving inventory first. You want to make sure that the items that have a risk of becoming obsolete go out the door as fast as possible. One tactic you can experiment with is to organize a fire sale and sell those items at a discount to customers. This will keep the cash flowing in, buying you enough time to focus on bigger issues such as inventory velocity down the line. Excessive cost structure. A lot of times the reason why businesses go into negative cash flow is that their expenses are way too many for the amount of revenue the business brings in. The business may have a lot of selling, general, and administrative costs, which is typically payroll, marketing, even office supplies, that are unnecessary for the business to operate effectively. Now, one tactic here is to focus on Cost out, going line by line in your P&L to determine what costs are absolutely necessary and which ones are not. Which ones can be turned into variable versus fixed, balancing payroll with commissions, which ones can be outsourced versus kept in-house, etc. The goal here is to shed the fat and get as slim as possible. Monitor improvement. Just as you would monitor someone's vitals, such as pulse and breath after giving first aid, you should apply the same principles to a business. Make sure to look at KPIs and ratios that can be used as a proxy for business health. Operating cash flow margin, receivables turnover ratio, inventory turnover ratio, etc. Have a weekly review with your team to review progress and adjust as you go. These are a few of the business lessons I've learned personally in my career to tackle negative cash flow. They are short-term measures that will give your business some breathing room before you tackle more fundamental issues like profitability or product demand. Now, not every person can be saved through first aid, unfortunately, but by the same logic, not every business can be fixed or turned around using measures mentioned above. However, there's a very big chance you might give that person or that business a fighting chance if you know the basics of first aid care. Hope this gives you some tools in your utility belt to save your business one day. If you like this video, smash that like button, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next